Hello and welcome to the Transforming Studio Time here at Learning to Say Studio. During our podcast conversation last week, we heard from Jessie Nilo about her prison ministry that is ongoing, and it's actually a continuation of her art ministry that she started in church out of a gap that she felt between being a lonely artist in the church pew and a lonely Christian at art school. Jessie's going to share a bit of her own personal experience with blind contour drawing and how it transformed a moment in time that was very hard for her and helped her process some things. I'll also put links in here to Grandma Layton, who credits blind contour drawing with literally saving her life. So that's an exciting link for you to check out. I hope you'll join along with us. I hope you'll give blind contour or semi-blind contour drawing a chance. And as Jessie said, let's just go on the journey. Let's see where the line leads. One thing I love about the blind contour is that it is so process focused, and you can't explain to people what it's doing. They just have to try it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And we're going to actually do a little demo today. I've got my little document camera facing right down and so you can see what I'm doing. But this is my trusty moleskin journal. And I was coming back. I had just visited my dad and he was and I've already read through this to make sure it's all good to share. I'm like, okay, yep, cool. But this is my dad. He passed away in 2023. So this is 2021 and I had visited him. I was hanging out with him at a little campground that he rented in Oregon. And so I drove about 5 hours to go be with him because I'm in Boise, Idaho. And, all the emotions, because my dad and I had a strange relationship and it was mostly not so good, but there were some little bright spots in it. And it was pretty complex, as a lot of us have. He never, he never encouraged my art when I was a kid, and I was heard that artists were stupid and things like that from him that were damaging. So as I grew up, I had to learn from a friend of mine told me, be yourself and let it mess with your dad. It's okay. Be yourself around him. And that helped me a lot. And so during this visit here, he was, just being himself too. And I was like, wow, it was messing with me. So on my way home, I literally pulled off the freeway and I drove down this road and I wrote the name of the road down, Frederick Butte Road. I wrote it in my journal and I just drove a couple miles in. I was very isolated by myself. And I just sat there for a while and I was like, Lord, I gotta process because my dad is getting weirder by the year and really like there's all sorts of feelings and frustrations and stuff in my heart. So I looked over and I started drawing a fence post line, and then I drew the tree that was sitting next to it and I drew it with a single line all the way across. Um from fence post to tree to little shadows underneath and some brush down there. And in that process of that single line contour drawing, which mostly I was looking at the fence post and the tree and not so much at my paper, which is why it's called blind contour, because I'm not looking at my paper as I'm drawing. Uh, I just was blessed with so much peace, just kind of, like just this release and relief came in as I was praying and just prayerfully drawing and saying, Lord, this is, I don't know what to make of this. I don't know what to make of my dad right now. I don't know what to make of the visit I just had with him because everything feels topsy-turvy inside of me. So I release it all to you. And then I did that drawing and it helped so much. Just kind of, whew. Yeah. So that's that story of the field. And after probably about, you know, 45 minutes to an hour, I felt like I could keep on driving on the way home. I'm so glad I stopped off the road though and did that. Um, yeah, I'll never forget it. And now I've got it in my sketchbook.
Yeah. And about how long do you think that took you?
I think the drawing itself, if I were to guess, probably took about somewhere between 10 minutes and 10 to 15 minutes at the most because I was drawing really, really slowly on purpose so I could just look at the detail of each fence post. And I I wasn't really conscious of using a single line until I was well into it, and I thought, "Hmm, maybe I'll not lift up my pen. I'll just keep it down on the paper and see where this will take me." Not because I was any, you know, I wasn't in like, oh, I have to keep a rule and I can't mess up and make a mistake. And uh-oh, I'm in it now, so I'm not allowed to lift up my pen. It was more just, oh, I'm feeling a rhythm here and I'm just gonna follow it and see where it takes me. And so that's what I that's what I did. It was pretty cool.
It is cool that I got an image as you were talking of, like those clowns when they're pulling the
Yeah,
colored string and stuff, like, out of their shirts, and, like, I
right.
feel like that process is kinda like grabbing something in your brain and, like,
Yeah.
pulling it out.
Yes,
It's
that's
all,
what it
like,
felt like.
nodding up in your head as you were driving home, and, like, you took the
Yeah.
time to go super slow,
Yes,
and, like, 10 to 15 minutes, that's not gonna ruin your ETA when you're driving 5
exactly.
hours.
Yeah,
It's
and it
not a
took
whole therapy session, it
yep,
must have made the rest of your trip and your arrival back home to your family
totally
so
different.
so different.
Yeah, it really did. Yeah, and there was a good 15 minutes before I started driving to even make the decision to take that exit and follow this strange dirt road down who knows where it's going to go. And it was before it got dark. In fact, it was about to rain, I think. It was kind of a cozy feeling, just being the only person out there and then um making sure I stayed safe and everything, but at the same time getting out of my car and just sitting there and I had a little camp chair in my car, so I brought the camp chair out and I just kind of was like, "All right, Lord, I didn't get out to draw. I just got out to breathe." And I'm just like, "Here I am. Whew, what in the world?" And I was just kind of praying. And so that took a few minutes and then it occurred to me like the little fence that I was seeing and then the gnarly old tree and I had the idea to draw. And it's an important practice to not push away those impulses, like when we have an opportunity to create, to make a little journal, to make a little note, to make a little poem, whatever it is, especially if you have a portable way of, taking things with you to capture like these little moments. It's important to say yes more than you say no. I'm not always good at following this myself. There are weeks that can go by where I'm in the habit or the practice of saying, nope, nope, too busy, nope, nope. And then I don't get to practice, I don't get to process, and I don't get to rest, and I don't get to create on a whim. And then the practice of doing that a little bit eludes me. And then I think, no, no more. I'm just going to practice saying yes. And then that changes everything for as long as I start doing that. I've
Isn't that
asked,
interesting how we always go like, "Oh, too busy, we don't have time for this little thing." But if we just take a few minutes to rest and
yeah,
follow the nudge, we
yeah,
have more energy and we
yeah,
have more time.
right. That 45 minutes that I spent pulling off the road and then getting back on the road. My goodness. Yeah, that changed so much for me. And not just for that one trip home. That changed a lot for me. Every time I look at this, it reminds me of
Mm,
the 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 peace that God brought to me in that moment of confusion.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Cool. So do you wanna flip cameras
Yes,
and
I
show
will.
that for us?
Awesome.
Thanks for
Okay.
sharing that whole story. It's
Oh, yeah,
a
of
blessing.
course. So I've got my, 2021 sketchbook here. And then what I'll have here, just really quickly too, another thing that I did on another day is I drew some little cartoons about my dad and some things I was processing with him with some funny ways that he has pronouncing or had pronouncing words like he would say kids instead of kids and have instead of have. And I was like, well, it's kind of endearing. And this is a picture of him smashing his bicycle against a cliff by mistake when he was trying to turn his van around when he was lost. So like I thought, well, I'm, I've simply decided that I can't control my dad's eccentricities anyway, so I might as well let them become endearing to me, those things, because it's about not being able to change another person, so I was like, all right, I'll just not worry about any of the strange things that he's doing. He's
What a great paradigm shift right there.
It really was freeing, and it's about realizing somebody else's capacities and accepting those capacities for your own life, to just be like, okay, well, that is who that person is, and I'm going to work with them as they are, and I'm going to love them as they are, eccentricities and quirks and all, and realizing that somebody might be in decline around you, and there is nothing you can do about it except adjust your own reality to it. So that helped me a lot in the last few years that he was alive. Helped me a lot.
A lot, a lot.
Yeah. So I've got my trusty moleskin here. This is my current moleskin, and I've got my pens with me. This is kind of a Prismacolor black pen set that I really like, but you can use anything. I do like to recommend a pen that draws very smoothly, and this paper as well is very smooth paper, as opposed to bumpy, like how a lot of watercolor paper has a very bumpy surface. So I like smooth, like I like to picture my paper as a skating rink, and my pen is the ice skates, and they're just kind of flowing and fluid around to make it an uninterrupted experience. And here is the tree that I had drawn before, and you can see how smooth that is, as you see the first fence post where I started, and then just very slowly meditatively coming over, and I'm looking at every little nuance in those far off shrubs and bushes, and then I joined it right together with the tree, even though the tree is in the foreground, and I'm looking at every leaf, going very, very slowly. My eyes are mostly on the tree in the distance, and then once in a while I glance down to make sure I'm not going to draw off this edge of my paper. So that's called a blind contour drawing, or a semi-blind contour drawing. And right now, if I'm looking at, maybe I'll look at my friend Jen Allward, and I will draw you right now, um, on my screen as I'm contemplating my friend.
Yeah, I like that idea that you have the smooth writing pen and the smooth paper, like on an
Yeah.
ice skating rink. That's a nice.
Yeah, it is. And so I'll make your portrait on this side. It's not a portrait, it's a blind contour drawing. This is like a meditative exercise. I'm using a .01 um pen, and I'll just look mostly at you, and I'm just going to meditatively draw, like with a single line. I'm not trying to worry about exact anything. I'm just looking at mostly your face. I am allowing myself to peek a little bit, at my paper, just to see like where I'm at. And I will go see, there's your shadow. And I get to play with your, you know, the shapes of your hair. You can get as detailed as you want with this, and just like I did with that tree, you can embellish things. I know, like maybe the hair or the shadow lines stop in a certain place, but I can keep on going and make things up. I don't have to do it just because it's, that way on my in my viewfinder or something.
Yeah. I always find it interesting with these is you start to see things a little differently that you didn't see on first glance.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. So I'm gonna do, and I could have stopped, it looked really cool before I even did the face at all, right? I could have been like, I'm gonna stop at a blank face. If you're not really practiced in the drawing yet, there's there's no pressure that you don't have to make like, oh, I have to do um like the face or anything like that. You can do as much or little as you want to. and you can leave things colored in or not. I've just kind of done a loop-de-loop around your eye there. And I'm trying not to lift my pen. I'm just making up little Betty Edwards drawing on the right side of the brain has some fantastic tutorials in the way of blind contour drawings or semi-blind contour drawings as we're doing.
Yeah, that's a very helpful book.
Oh, it is. It's just wonderful.
It'll stretch you a little, but you'll see the benefits.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. So now I'm to the point where I'm coming over to your mouth. And I'm just making these little decisions as I go. And if it ends up looking very much like you or not, that's not really the point at all. The point is a something in the world that didn't exist before. And it is also freedom of expression. This is a good chance to look for things that stand out to me. And maybe it's yeah, I think I'm gonna stop. That was just what I wanted to say.
That's
That
great.
really fun.
Yeah. It does become really fun to just play with that line, doesn't it?
It does. It's therapeutic. It helps you to rest. And I probably, being an art instructor that's a lot of what I do. I find myself going a little bit faster than I would have in a truly reflective mindset if I were, especially if I'm processing emotion. I'm not generally, flying along. When I'm teaching my art classes, I'm always saying like, now I know I made that tree really fast, but don't do that. And they laugh. And I say, the point while what I'm here for is not to look at a finished painting that you've just made. The point is to relax. And, so that goes back to facilitating again, is is to relax and enter into that creative zone where you can really, have that conversation between you and your brush or your pen or whatever it is that you're working with. Same with this. If you and I weren't on this podcast being recorded, I would have taken much longer to create that. And you can do that with anything. Like I could look around my room here and make just the same as that tree with the fence posts was speaking to me. I didn't have to know why it was speaking to me. I just made it because I wanted to. That's the only reason I needed. So if I wanted to make this pair of scissors here, I could make that. Or any kind of a bouquet of brushes, or I could look upstairs. I could pick an object that has meaning to me. Maybe an object that my dad either gave me or that I collected from his house. As I was down in Southern California cleaning up after his house,
Yeah.
getting ready to put it on the market after he died. I could do so if I were doing that with a continuous line drawing with a single line, um, you better believe it. I would spend 20 or 30 minutes on it, I'm sure. And just allowing myself to very slowly, meditatively respond to the line and probably would have some tears in the middle of it.
And just let it all flow.
That's right.
Just a gift
Yeah.
to yourself. Yeah.
And that is what it's about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So have you ever heard of Grandma Layton?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I'm going to send you a link to that.
Okay.
And I'll put
Yeah,
it in the
great.
show notes too. She actually, um, like lots of mental health issues in her life, really tragic story and lots of death and stuff. But she actually credits blind contour drawing with saving her life.
Wow.
She'd gotten rid of all of her possessions. She was planning suicide, and her sister, I think, said, "Why don't you come to this art class with me?" And she's like, "Fine, I'll go to the stupid art class with you." because otherwise I was going to commit suicide or something that night. I don't know if it's quite that condensed, but like
Sure, sure.
she went to the class and it turned everything around, and they're doing blind contour drawings. And that's like the main form of art she stuck with for the rest of her life.
My goodness,
Super
that
cool.
is
Super
powerful.
cool. Yeah.
Well, do you have time for me to do a demo on these scissors real quick for a
Yeah.
blend contour? Okay,
Yeah. Go
I'm
for
gonna
it.
do this like this is more the pace that I would normally do this in real life. I'm going to start, it doesn't matter where. Maybe I'll start right there where that button is. And in real life, you just can't talk, but I'm going to a little. I'm seeing some reflections from my view in that little button. So I'm going to play right there inside the button. It's not wrong to lift up my pen. Maybe I will just lift it up. Looks like a little world already. Now I'm going to put my pen back down. I'm going to start right here. My eye is going to slowly trace around and this way and then back up. And I'm going to just see where it goes. My eye, the point is to go very slowly. And maybe I get the angles kind of accurate and maybe I don't. Doesn't matter. I'm going to make it a little smaller than real life. And I'm going to really try to let myself enter into the zone. It doesn't matter if your proportions are right. I'm kind of looking at shadows. I'm playing. And I'm not concerned about accuracy, especially in proportion. Now, from this point, my eye landed back here again. And so from here, I'm going to see if I can maybe not lift up my pen and start to make that black kind of diamond shape right in the middle. Now I'm going to go slowly around here as my eye traces around the object. I'm really looking a long time at the scissors and I'm not looking at my drawing so much. I glance at it once in a while, but boy, not very much. Did you see how I took that detour right there?
Yeah.
That was fun. Felt like driving down the field when I was looking at that tree in the fence post. Now I'm making a couple extra shadows just for fun. Now I lifted it back up because I'm going to start back down here. Maybe I'll start right about there. Notice my line is shaky. I'm not getting out a ruler. I kind of like that shakiness. There's a really sharp part of the scissors there that I can see that kind of has that slanted edge. So that's why I went back over it right there. But my line is definitely not ruler straight. And that's totally okay. I think it adds a lot of quality to the drawing if you don't have that sort of limited computerized feel to a drawing. Cool. All right, there's my scissors. Again, I ended up in sort of demonstration mode. If I were drawing this, just me, myself, and I, especially to emotionally process anything, boy, I would have taken probably twice as long just for fun. And then oftentimes I'll take out my painting set.
I was just wondering if you're going to pull out watercolors. I'm like, that would be so fun to watercolor that ink drawing right there.
This is my little ritual. I pour some water into these things and I've got my brushes, right in the little tray there. And I get these wet And then, yeah, I always keep this in a little quart-sized Ziploc bag with me wherever I go. I bring it to church and, kind of just in my backpack wherever I'm at. So I'll dip into something and thank you, scissors. I just drew you guys. I'm going to return you to your little pencil jar now. So this here, man, I really like to go outside the lines when it comes to stuff like this. Sometimes I'll paint inside the lines, but I'm thinking transparent orange might look really, really cool over it. I know those were not orange scissors, but I'll just kind of make a thing. And I don't know how waterproof, that pen that I used truly was. We'll find out.
Yes, it's fun to experiment.
It is, yeah. And I got like a little drop of water right there. So maybe I'll add a few more drops around on the page.
Let
But
the
I'm thinking,
playfulness out.
yeah, and I'm thinking about like what am I feeling? Like what drew me to those scissors? I know like sometimes it's all right to not even know why I drew a thing and be like, I have no idea why. That's all right. I don't have to torture myself trying to figure it out. And sometimes I do know if I think about it, like what was drawing me to that. So,
Yeah. So if somebody wanted to do this exercise for some emotional processing, what tips would you give them?
mm, I would say go with, like, for whatever reason, I'm thinking about adding some blue here. Go with whatever it is that the that you're wanting to see in the art. It's more about what you want to see and a little less about what you're actually seeing. Follow the processing that you're doing, follow the art. If it ends up to be like, well, I liked it better 2 minutes ago, then great, you learned something, right? Or you made it and you don't know why, and that's okay. Either way, it's good. Um, I think for me, maybe this is about cutting ties. That's just me kind of wondering if, uh, that's why I made it. And I'm responding to the marks. Now I had a little drop of yellow paint right there, and I worked around it with the red. So I wouldn't have added the red there if the yellow wasn't already there. Notice you can't predict those things at all. So I'm just kind of um, going with the paint as it unfolds. Of course, I'm the one doing the painting, but as the paint itself unfolds, it's like a progressive response. I'm
Mhm.
not planning too much ahead, well, at all ahead in this case. And I think I won't color in the handle or that little circle or anything. I kind of feel like that's done already.
Like
Um,
practicing listening to your intuition is what I'm hearing.
yeah, that's a pretty good way of saying that. Yeah, and I did not used to be able to paint intuitively or draw intuitively because I was the kind of person who thought you had to make a finished image realistically of anything that you wanted to do because that's the only way I knew how. And so in future, in subsequent years, I've learned that not everything has to be realistic. In fact, it's nice to not go all the way to the edges of some things on purpose. It's nice to leave some, or to introduce unrealistic things or colors or lines or textures here and there. And that's part of, you know, that's part of what makes art too, is adding your own interpretation into things and not having to do it a certain way is really nice. It's freeing. So
It is free.
yeah, I'm just kind of adding some of the I'm leaving the white of the paper to represent any kind of shadow areas on your portrait. This is something that I sometimes do, but not always. So just kind of, it's like going by what I feel like instead of a plan. But and if I'm working with watercolor, I try to remind myself to not go back and try to quote fix things, because that's no fun, and then it loses its freshness. So not sure where your original color was, but we're just going to make it up at this point.
That
Artistic
works.
freedom, absolutely. I'm like, I don't know what I meant in some of those areas, and so I'm just making it up as I'm responding to what's already there. Because
Yeah.
I was in the zone when I made it, and you can't always remember what it is that was attracting you to something, a subject or otherwise. So yeah, I like it.
That's so fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I like what you were saying too, is like you kind of have a method. You have
Yeah,
a you have they're not really rules, but they're methods or they're habits and of ways of getting yourself going.
yeah,
And then you're totally free to not do any of them all the way through.
right.
Like
Totally.
change it up.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so you never know, but it's definitely not about any kind of final whatever. It is much more about the expression that we have as creative people, and the um the different the freedom that we have in that process to take it as far as we want to go with it, and to like say what is fascinating to us, and be able to be able to let that be part of our story afterwards, even for years to come.
Yeah. And what was
Yeah.
you said earlier? Your friend said, "Just be you and let it mess with them."
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, be yourself. Be yourself and let it mess with people, because we can't be anybody except ourselves. And if we're not understanding what's motivating another person, that's okay. That's not on us anyway.
And I feel like this process is learning how to trust yourself and to give credit or value to what you do notice.
Right. It is. And letting it be, because if I had both of these subjects on another day or even earlier today, I would have made them differently.
Yeah.
Not not exactly this way. And this was me in the moment of right now, whatever today's date is. This is what I was feeling at the moment, and that's what came out.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's great to also remember it. You might do the sketch on one day and you come back to color and you're like, what was I thinking? Why was this interesting?
Yeah, I don't know what
Or you had this idea of how you're going to use the colors one day and they're totally different the next day.
what was I thinking there? I don't even remember. I don't
Yeah.
know.
But it
Yeah.
can mean multiple things. And I think that's fun with process. Anything that's like a process oriented is you can keep going back to the same page and get a different thing processed each day and it'll just keep transforming.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So sketchbooks are fun because you can see that evolve over time.
Yeah.
Once
Yeah,
you've
and we
got those little golden nuggets, you're like, you can go back and be like, oh
yeah, yeah. And I wonder what I was thinking on that day or whatever, and it's okay. We don't have to know exactly.
yeah, it is. It is.
Some of it does stand out of, oh, I totally remember that moment and why I did that.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, thanks so much for sharing all of that, Jesse.
You're so welcome.
Yeah.
It's really fun. I could talk forever about this kind of stuff.
Right? Yes. Is there anything like any last words that you want to leave people who come? And then also like how can they get in touch with you best?
Oh yeah. So my website is godlovesart.com if you want to check us out there and get in touch. We're the course that we teach is very interactive, student to teacher. It's not a self-paced thing, so I look forward to getting to know new students all the time. And I think just don't compare yourself to anybody else. Everybody has their own approaches, and what fascinates one person is, is not for everybody. And so and also just like don't don't give up if you're just brand new at any kind of method or material or medium. um give it give it a fair shake. Don't quit too early. And definitely don't compare your beginning endeavors with anybody else's, because yeah, it's not fair to just stop after just a couple of hours of trying something, because you haven't really found your voice in that thing yet. I mean, unless you don't, if you don't like it, then that's fine. That's different. But yeah, keep going and keep trying new things and give it a fair shake before you hang it up. I think that most artists just haven't found their medium yet, and you're not going to know until you've got a good 5 or 10 hours into any given medium before you get a hint of whether you like it or not.
Yeah, you got to move through the frustration part
Yeah.
and that
Yep.
learning curve. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how every one of us does it. None of us is like, "Oh, yeah, I totally know everything about that medium." Like when we start, like, no, we don't at all. Yeah, there's lots of frustration that's just part of the journey, but don't let it stop you. Don't ever let it stop you. Just keep on going. I don't like everything I make, and neither will you.
Correct.
Mhm.
Cool.
Yep.
Thank you. This is
Yeah,
great.
that's my advice. Yeah. Thank
Cool.
you, Jen.
Yeah. Do you want to close in prayer?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Uh, thank you, Lord, for this art time together between friends. And I want to just say a blessing for everybody who is watching right now, that you would encourage and be with them. And um, that as they're trying new methods, or even returning to methods they've already given a try in a different season, that you would be right there with them, and that they would sense your presence as you're bringing your peace, your clarity, and your permission to go forward in our own processing, in our own creating, and yeah, teach us and keep teaching us ways that you do bless and even inhabit our praises, which include all sorts of forms of art. Even as we process, even as we surrender what is not ours to control, and notice the things that are around us already, and make beautiful things from that, and meaningful things from that. So help us to let go of the results and really get into the process, and benefit greatly from that in the practice of saying yes to those opportunities. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. That was great. Thanks
Thank
again.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.